What's going on, y'all? It's your girl, Amaya Desire, and of course, the one and only.
Denny C23.
We're back with another episode review for Paradise. This is episode 5 right here on Big Go Bell Media.
Yes,
And
sir.
Paradise is everywhere, right? You can catch it on Hulu, you can catch it on ABC, and you can catch it on Disney, I think,
Disney.
right?
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so
Disney.
it's
Come on.
everywhere. I've been seeing all your tweets, all your comments. Man, this
Yeah.
show is fire and everybody agrees. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, mostly everybody, and for the haters
Mostly
who
everybody.
don't, well, this is
That's
not
all
for
right,
you.
man.
So, yeah, so
Uh,
let's jump into it because episode 5 it gets very, very tricky. So, finally here's what I love, right? Because I love Cal, right? I
right.
really enjoy his character. I love seeing that he's not as dense as people made him out to be in the first 4 episodes.
I don't ever think he was this, personally. I
You
feel he
don't think
gives
so?
off. No, I never thought he was this. Never.
It gave
I
off.
I felt like he he always gave me the person that cares but tries to seem as if they don't type of energy. Like
Nah,
he
I
gave
think that
me
he
he's
came
always
off
getting
like he cared,
nah, because I
but he
feel like
didn't. But he was oblivious.
initially no, initially he came off as the guy who before getting this episode and how it started off. Initially, he seemed like the guy who was a party guy who had a very carefree life because he was born into money. He was like spoiled rich kid vibes, is what we initially get from him. But as his character develops, we see he was actually a person who cared deeply, who did have a very unorthodox way of approaching things. However, his heart was always in the right spot, at least from what I got from
So what I got from it was he wanted to make his own way. He didn't want the money that was given to him, and he didn't want to be in the oil business, and he wanted to be a high school teacher. We saw that in like
him. Right,
episode 1. And I
right.
think that what it was that he just came off oblivious to the things that were going on around him, right? Because he does mention at some point that the biggest contribution that his dad made was him, not the land, not the resources, nothing. It was him. And so as we dive into this episode, we see that um Cal's dad is forcing him into politics, essentially, right? Like he doesn't want
Right.
to be in politics, but dad says, somebody will be grateful for this last name that you have. And so this
Right.
is what you're going to do. You're going to go and do the senator, and then
I'm
it'll
not
prepare
gonna
you
lie.
for big things.
I'm not gonna lie. The dad says something that I had no choice but to respect. He's like, "You're not doing it for you. You're doing it for your children and the grandchildren and their last name." And I feel like that was real.
No,
Even though,
what he's saying
listen,
is your last name is Rich and you should use the power that your last name has. It had nothing, it
no,
wasn't
it was
about,
about.
no, it
He
was
said,
not
"I'm not
about
allowing my son." He said, "I'm not allowing my son to be a poor person when you have the access to be a rich person."
he was always going to have the access to be a rich person. So him choosing a different career wouldn't have made any difference. The
Yes,
money is
he would have got
there.
cut off. He
Well,
would have
then he
got cut
would have got
off.
cut off. But the money is
No,
there. The
but
money
the
is
father
there.
cares about lineage. The father cares about family history, passing things down.
He cares
You
about
can't
being
pass
rich,
something.
bro. He
Hey,
cares
that's a
about
part of
being
it
rich.
too.
No,
Who
but
who
that's
wants
what
to
I'm
be
saying.
poor?
Cal is not that man. Cal wants to do something that's meaningful, and we can't
Right.
downplay and act like him saying what he said wasn't a slight at teachers, because he was very clear. You're not going to be running around teaching snotty nosed kids, catcher in the rye
Hey,
or whatever. But the
hey.
point is that he's not even worried about that. This is about power. Sending Cal into, he could have sent Cal anywhere. The oil business was not for him. Okay, if we're in the spaces that we think that we're in, he could have sent Cal into tech. He could have sent Cal into stocks. It was so many different
At
places.
that, but no, 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 no. He could set maybe stocks at that time, but you got to think about the era in which this was in. Tech jobs was not a thing back then.
No, we're way past the era. Where do you think we are?
What
The
do you
era that
mean?
we're
In
in,
the era that Cal and his father was having this conversation, not the
yes,
era that we're in today. I mean the era of the time of this conversation, which was
yes.
in like the 80s, early 90s, which wasn't
No.
a big thing. Tech jobs wasn't like a big thing. It
It's
was
but you
90
can see the but if you're in
97.
power, you can see the future, right? You know what's about to happen. You know that there is going to be like everybody knew the internet was
No,
going to get bigger than what it
no,
was.
no,
Here's the
no, they
thing.
didn't. No, they didn't.
Listen, yes they
No, they
did.
didn't. No, they didn't.
People who
People thought
knew, knew.
Y2K was going to end the world. They did not think the internet was going to get bigger than what it did.
All right. Well, listen. The point is that it's
Just saying.
about power. It's really not about him caring
Uh,
about the last name in that way. It's not about lineage. It's about
it is.
having. No, it's not. It's about having power to be able to do things and be on top of other people. So it's not about the
No,
lineage.
I think you're looking at it from that way only based off how the show is going and not how people who come from this type of background think. Like
It's
it is a sense of power, yes, but that's because their family already has power. And
right. It's
you are
about
the next
keeping the
person to
power.
lead. You're the next person to lead this family. So it's not about you and what you want to do. It's about continuing what our family has built.
That's what I just
And
said.
that's
It's
what
about the power.
it's not just about the power though.
It
He
is because you could have did anything. You could have just said, "All right, like again, he wanted him to be the president. Who has the most power in the world? The president. So it's
but
about
he
power.
that's he wanted him to be in oil. But since Kyle didn't like the oil industry,
And the
he
next
said, "You're
best
gonna
thing he
do
said was
something."
politics.
The next thing is pop. You know why? Because these are, like you said, it is a power thing, but these are things that you could pass on and keep in the family so your family can continue to
You can
have,
keep
like,
power, and so
you
that
can
you
keep
will never
power.
ever have to worry
To
about
worry
anything
about it,
again.
right? You said
Yeah.
your kids would appreciate it.
And they don't. So speaking about kids,
I
because
know.
Jeremy definitely called his dad out in this episode, which I like, and he's very clear as to what I'm saying about it, which is you are just sitting by while a bunch of billionaires put their hands up your ass. You are a puppet. You act like there are things that you could have stopped, things that you could have prevented. You could have had different conversations, right?
Respectfully.
And you didn't. And so here we are, and you're letting certain things take place. And I mean, he's right because
He's the
we see
president. He only
no, that's
got
not
but
how
so
this
much
works.
power. He only got but so much power. We're not gonna act like the
No,
president is the
we're not gonna
absolute power of
say
the world, of the
we're
free
not gonna
world.
say that. We're not gonna say, but in this moment in time that Jeremy is referencing, we're already down in the bunker.
Hmm.
You have more say so than I think that we know at a certain point in time, Sinatra was playing the game of manipulation, right? We seen her do it. This is just how she works, right? At some point in time, we saw that Cal actually has like he starts to get curious, right? In this episode, he starts to get curious. He's like, because of course his dad is calling Billy Sniper. He's trying to figure out why does he keep referring to Billy as Sniper, right? So we find out that Cal is like, well, his name is Agent, Billy or Agent Pace or whatever, and he's like, well, what is this, And after this is, I'm sure this is his wheels turning after Jeremy calls him out to say like, you stood by, you didn't do nothing, and listen, I will say this for a dad who wanted him to go into it, calling that man not my president and sticking your tongue out at him is wild work. That's
He
crazy.
has dementia.
That's not what he's talking about though. In this moment of his clarity, he says they did it right under your nose and you didn't even blink an eye. Like you didn't think about it. You didn't even like think like what happened, like what is going on. And then he says, not my president. Like he's had that moment was moment of clarity. He was not in a dementia moment. And Jeremy follows suit to say, not my president either. Like again, it's nasty work because for him to be doing it for the family and everything, you know what I'm saying, to keep the last name going, Jeremy is over it.
Jeremy is Kyle.
And is he the only kid?
He's the only one that they reference. That's a great question.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. Is this something
Yeah,
that
he
I'm
is.
not?
He is, I think.
Yeah. He's Kyle's only kid. So yeah.
Has to
So
be.
I mean, my thoughts are, Cal is finally coming into it. He's finally having this moment where he's like, all right, now let me see what's going on. He goes to get his iPad. He realizes he doesn't have access. His dad is sleeping in the reading room, and he's like, hey, what the heck? Let me just go and figure it out. And he goes and he realizes his dad has access. He opens it up, and he's able to see that the explorers found out that the air was, good. That they found
Breathable, right?
people were alive, and that Sinatra, ordered Billy to take them out. Now, we saw that in the last episode. We understood what was happening, but what do you think? Like, how do you feel now that Cal has all this information and things are starting to come together? What did you think about the building up of this scene?
Oh, so as we all know, in the early episodes, they was talking about how Cal lost his mind. He was walking around in a bathrobe, and So now catching up to the story, and we're seeing why he was running around in his
Mm-hmm.
bathrobe and things like that. I feel like my man had a new fire lit under him. I
Mm-hmm.
loved it. I love the build up. I love him setting the Easter egg clues for people. I like him going to talk to the people that he did in order to set some type of fail safe in motion, you know? So I like the build up. I do feel I want it just a little bit more in this build up though. Only because
Mm-hmm.
Cal is such a big character and such a big personality in the show that I feel like some of those scenes could have been a little bit more dramatic, just a little bit, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just a little bit. Or like some of the Easter eggs could have been a little bit more like, all right, kind of give us a little bit more on the hints, you know, because just giving us
I
numbers on the
think.
cigarette, numbers on the, you
Well,
know, like,
remember. Here's the thing. I feel like he has to be extra careful, right? We find out that Sinatra is just nothing is safe and nothing is
right,
sacred, right? But
right,
I think that Cal knew that Xavier is going to be the one, like that. Like if it's anybody else, it's going to be, and he doesn't understand what's happening because this is what we find out, that he thinks that Billy is can't be trusted, but he just
right,
doesn't realize that Billy is just being threatened, right? And now that obviously he's gone, these are flashbacks. He doesn't realize that Billy was next on the list and got X'd out. So there are a lot of different things that are coming into place that are happening. And so for me, I'm thinking about this scene because I'm like, is Cal setting up like music? Like, is he like is I mean, obviously he's burning songs, right? But like, what
right,
else is he doing? So I'm interested to see like how deep this goes. But we
right.
can tell that his eyes are opening and he wants to know more about the people who are down here, which inherently for me is a good thing because I'm like, yo, like you need to know about everybody that is on your detail,
Right. Because you
Jane,
got to
everybody
think
that you're not familiar with.
they handpicked these people.
Right.
It wasn't like it was a random lottery people entered. No, they handpicked these people, which means everything here is already a conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kyle, what are you going to do about it? And
Yeah.
then finding out your father had a hand in this conspiracy
Yeah.
deeper than what you thought or knew initially?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Crazy. To think that someone you considered a friend and respected is actually a monster, and now you have to figure out what the heck she been doing behind the scenes
Yeah.
without getting noticed. That was crazy. I'm not
And
gonna lie.
all of this is a flashback, right? Because Cal has passed, and this is like at his funeral, essentially, where all these things, like people are having these moments. Because we see Robinson have a moment where she's, you know, talking to Cal as she looks at the picture, that they have listed for him. And for me, I think that it was giving very Scandal, like, which is cool. Which is cool. It's a nice old, Scandal is that show. So it just goes to show that I think I just think obviously it's a lot to be the president. And to be the
Right.
president in the last of days has to be a tremendous weight on Cal's
Listen,
shoulders.
To be the
And
president in a mountain must be
in a
crazy. Like,
mountain.
come on. Come on. You the president of the mountain of the United States. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
That's already hard for people to wrap around their head. Then you
Yeah.
create a simulated living environment. Like, that is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What do
So
you think about us going into Robinson and Cal and the fact that he slips up and he's like, "You think these rich people gonna be down here without no guns?"
yo, I'm not gonna lie. The fact that Robinson was just saying how she missed the weight of it, how she that's scary. Scary. Scary business.
I
Because if she
mean,
down there, listen, if she down there thinking like that and she's a good one,
I see what you're saying.
I
Yeah.
can only imagine with these people that's on Sinatra's payroll thinking like, listen, we didn't see Jane coming.
Hmm.
We did not
And
see
Jane had a
Jane
gun.
coming
Jane had a gun. So where's she?
early.
Yeah, facts.
So I'm confused as to why she's so comfortable just saying, yo, I miss my gun. And
Yeah.
Kyle so comfortable to be like, yo, we got a whole arsenal. Look, you know that spot we went to? Yeah, that's where they at,
Yeah.
you know?
But I mean, I think he trusts her too because he knows that Robinson
But then
is one
again,
of the good ones.
yeah, and he also didn't tell her initially, like right away. They did
Yeah.
come back to the conversation after did his little homework. So I guess
Yeah.
that part was definitely a much needed conversation. And I guess it was either her or Xavier that was going to get that information of where the guns were located.
Hmm.
So it's only right. It's only
Yeah.
right.
I think that that is interesting. You can tell Cal is in a moment where he's like, he doesn't know what's gonna happen, right? Because now that he's finding out all this information, and it puts him in a dangerous position, right? And he got to
Mhm.
tread lightly because his family is still there, right? He got his son, his grandfather, his wife, and you don't know what can happen. And so I think that we see him. Here's the thing: Cal got balls, right? We see
Mhm.
him confront Sinatra, and
Right.
basically says like, "I know what you did." And
Mhm.
I'm gonna tell the people. One thing I will say is that Cal definitely is for the people. He's like,
He's
I
definitely
don't want
for
to
the
keep
people.
secrets.
Listen, he is for the people. The problem is, I think Kyle is conflicted between not wanting to do this job and being for the people.
Hmm.
So, in moments where he gonna do what he can. But in moments where he don't feel like it, he not going to. And I
Hmm.
just feel like that's how it is. So he comes off, like I said before, like a person who wants to seem as if he doesn't care, but he does care.
Yeah, he does. Absolutely, he does care. And so we see, him telling Sinatra like, "I know what you did," and Sinatra being like, "Listen, I want to see what it's like when you have balls, right?" And I hate her every episode. I hate her even more. And I'm just like, somebody please
Yeah.
just shoot her one good time. Technical difficulties, y'all.
Oh my God. I am. Yeah, we gonna have to cut that. Yeah. Oh, hate
So,
my life.
hey,
Hey,
listen,
bring it
it
in.
happens. It happens.
Okay.
I think that, yeah, I just hate Sinatra more and
Yeah, I'm not
more.
gonna lie. Sinatra definitely becomes more and more villain like each episode. Like
She's a monster.
I feel like they gradually starting to get her away from humanizing her because like the flashbacks initially started off like, oh, she was a caring mother who met her husband at the bar,
She was,
who
but here's
lost
the
her
thing. I
son,
don't
who was
ever
doing this
think that.
for a big
No, here's the
reason.
thing. When we first get the intro to Sinatra, she shows up at the bar, tells that man she's about to be a billionaire. She don't even seem remotely emotional. She seems very robotic. She seems very removed. She smiles more. She has a little emotion, but she's not. She don't listen. That I would have been like, it's a hard no for me. And I maybe years later I would have seen her on
She a
TV and been like, damn,
billionaire.
I missed out. But like, Nah, she just
Nah,
seems very. She seems
I'm
very
sorry,
cold.
Sinatra. I would have took all your billions.
Listen,
I
I
would
would
have
have
been
did
just like your husband.
something. I would have been something. But yeah,
No,
I just don't feel. She doesn't feel very friendly to me. She doesn't feel motherly. I think that
you don't feel she felt
after.
motherly? I feel
So
that's the only time you
I'm
get a
saying
human experience.
after, right? That's what I'm saying. After her son passes away, I think that's where, like, because even she doesn't connect with her daughter the way that she should as a parent who lost a child, right? She's removed.
Mm,
She's so busy trying to keep them safe that she's removed. And she's
right.
also busy trying to stay in control and to keep the power that now it's like, oh, well, I'm just, yeah, I see you, you're here, but I just don't
Hmm.
feel like she interacts in the way that,
Well, with people,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But she's a smart woman, scientist. Like usually, those type of people have social,
anxiety.
anxiety or some type of social inability to interact with people normally, or what we would consider normal. So I get that. But as far as Sinatra, like I said, like I think they slowly are dehumanizing her, like as the story goes on. As like they tried to keep her more human in the beginning with like the kid backstory and all
Hmm.
that, the reason why she's doing this, try to get people on the calls, but like the reason you started this is not what's going on now. So what's going
No,
on?
it's not. And I think that I want to see more of how this impacts Sinatra and what really happens as far as
Mm,
when things start to come out about the truth, right?
mm-hmm.
And so as we start doing that, you see that Cal and his grandpa, I mean his dad and Jeremy are having like a back and forth via the dementia, via his lucid moments, right? And
Right.
so like Cal comes to his dad and he asks him like, is he proud of him? In which in a manner his dad says no, basically, and like you've never done anything that I haven't just told you to do,
Right.
and which I thought was interesting considering that he came to you and said, I'm not a child anymore. You literally cut him off. Like in that moment, I'm thinking like what would I have done? I guess I would have had to be disowned in order to like be happy because I think that Cal is miserable at this point and he just it's a means to an end, but also him trying to do, like we said, he's trying to do a good job for the people. He's not trying to be just that person who's not making good
A
choices that
difference.
affect the whole of
Right.
America. So I get that, but I know it was hurtful for him to hear that his dad
The
basically
whole of
saying like,
the mountain, but I
yeah,
get you.
well, yeah, yeah, but you know what I mean. So I
Yeah.
just feel like his dad, it was hurtful for his dad to say like
Right.
that he wasn't proud of him and that he didn't do anything he didn't ask him to do.
I feel like was that a real life moment or a dementia moment for the dad?
I don't know. I thought that too because we later see Jeremy come in. Right, this is after Jeremy gets caught with Presley, and grandpa's like, "What are you doing here?" Right. Um, So I think that it's interesting when Jeremy comes in to talk to Grandpa. Now, Grandpa's basically like,
Cut it.
"What?
That wasn't this episode.
Yeah, it was."
Not episode 5.
So Cal and Jeremy and Grandpa have been having these moments, and we're trying to figure out whether or not they're lucid or if they're part of the dementia, right? And so we see that after Grandpa basically tells Cal like he's not proud of him, then he kind of walks in on Jeremy and Presley having a moment where he's showing her Pebble Beach at the virtual golf course or whatever, and basically they're talking for a little bit, but Grandpa comes in and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And he grabs Presley, and we're not sure like what that's about, right? But we just
Yo.
figure it's him having a moment. To be honest with you, I think like he's thinking that that's Cal and Robinson. That was my thought. That's where I went with it.
So
um
initially, I thought that too. I thought three things. I thought either he's being racist, thought it was Kyle and Robinson because he keeps mistaking Jeremy for Kyle, or Presley is up to something deeper than what the heck is going on. And I want to know.
Right. Yeah. And so after that happens, Presley leaves. And then eventually not Cal, Jeremy goes over to Grandpa. And he's like, why would you do that? And he's like, what do you mean? I didn't do anything. And then he goes on to have this moment where he's again calling Jeremy Cal. And he tells him, like, I'm super proud of you. I'm so sorry for the mistakes that I've made. And again, remember these are flashbacks. It's a flashback, or this is a forward moment, a present moment
Hmm.
rather. Cal has passed, right? And
Hmm.
so the dad is having this moment with Jeremy as if he's Cal, and Jeremy has his moment with Grandpa as if Grandpa, like he's apologizing to his dad, but not, but obviously this is a conversation he's having with Grandpa. I think that it was just very important for them both to have that moment. I really like that moment in this episode because they need to both forgive themselves. And I
Hmm.
think Jeremy feels very, very bad, right? The last thing that he said to his dad essentially was, I wish you died with the rest of the world. And then proceeds to stand him up for dinner and, all these other things. So these are his last moments. And we all talk about, what happens when you don't get to say what you really want to the person before they leave this earth. And I'm sure we've experienced that in real life. And so it's
Right.
definitely, I can't even imagine, especially with him being a child, essentially, a
Right.
teenager going through
A
all these
teenager.
feelings.
Like, I'm not gonna lie. Grandpa talking to Jeremy as if he's Kyle is so like it's so passionate to me because of the way the scene was set up. Because they both had internal conflicts dealing with the loss of Kyle
Hmm.
that the grandfather saying, I'm proud of you, and the son saying, I forgive you, is so crazy because it's like they're speaking to Cal through each other,
Hmm.
separately but together, and it was beautiful. I'm not gonna lie. Like that was
Yeah.
very well done. I like it a lot. It was like a closure moment that we saw in real time for both people.
Agreed. Yeah.
Uh, I'm just happy the father didn't die right after because that's how shows be. So,
Well, yeah, I'm glad that didn't happen either, So I think that as we get deeper, into this, we'll see some other things start to get revealed with Cal, Jeremy, and Grandpa, because obviously, as we have noted with this show, it is giving us the flashbacks and the present moments, right? And
right,
so it is going to give us essentially all of what we're asking for and looking for at some moment in time. And so I think that this the whole trio,
hmm,
Cal and Jeremy, it just it's a good moment, and we love to see it. We love to see
yeah,
it.
I definitely like that. So Jane and Xavier finds Billy's body,
Hmm.
and I really hated the acting job Jane did. It didn't give convincing.
It
And I
wasn't
really
convincing at all.
and I don't like that Xavier didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Like
And
he's
I'm not sure he did or he doesn't, because I'm watching him as they take Billy's body out, right? He's like standing on the opposite side of the car while Janie is with the other security, Secret Service. And I feel like he's listening, but Jane, I don't know. Her acting is not convincing one bit. Like,
right,
it's her default cry, it's delayed. It
right.
doesn't seem, I don't know. It just felt very fake. And I
It
mean,
did
again, another person I hate, right? So there's that.
it didn't seem like she cared about Billy at all.
No, it didn't.
It seemed like, it is what it is. He was an assignment. He was a mark. Like that's what it's given. And just from the first episode of how they were interacting, how giddy she was around him, how they was like, ah,
Yeah,
to now, and it's like, yo, she's the most dangerous person in the show.
she is.
No one's gonna see her coming.
Yeah. I
Robinson
think that
said Jane is wet behind the ears. She doesn't even expect her as a threat,
mhm.
which is amazing because
I
Billy
think
felt the same regard.
yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think that here's the thing with Jane. As with anybody who's working for Sinatra, I think wholeheartedly she has something against them. And I think that she is just a master manipulator. But nonetheless, Jane is trash, and Xavier doesn't really see it. But he goes home, to check on the kids after the funeral and everything. And they're like, or this might be before the funeral actually, where the lamp is getting shaved down, and
Yeah. Wait,
Xavier
before
goes
we get
over.
there though, but before we get there, he drops the bomb on Presley. No,
No,
no.
because remember the light
The
lamp, the
light was
lamp
out.
post
Oh,
is
lamp was out. Yes, you're right. The
right.
lamp
So
post
it's
was out
so
first. He's like,
before, right?
that shit never been
Yeah,
out.
yeah, exactly. And
Right.
he's going over. They're getting ready for for Cal's funeral, and
Yeah.
he goes over to get James from Carl's, the neighbor, where Carl has a
Yeah.
dog where you're not supposed to have a dog,
Right.
and so um yeah, it's
Yeah.
very interesting because Xavier is like, yo, listen, these lamps was is not supposed to
Never.
be.
Never.
So like,
Right.
how easy would it be for them to put a camera there? And um, basically, he says, "Hey, like you just got to be careful." And asking a kid to keep a secret is crazy. So right, so this is
Right.
where Xavier's starting to see things happening, and he's like, "Yeah, nah, right, like."
Nah,
Something ain't
nah.
adding up. And then at
Listen,
the
I
funeral,
think he had his Kyle awakening moment, is what
he
I'm calling
did.
it.
Oh, he had his Kyle making a moment. That's funny.
Right.
I think that it's interesting because, you know, when they're starting to talk about basically Robinson and Xavier are starting to talk about, like, well, what is like what's happening? Because remember, this all kind of started because the DNA sample was delayed or didn't make it, right? And this is when Robinson says, like, oh yeah, so
Yeah.
apparently, who has the power to do that? Like it never made it. Like who has the power to do it? And they looking at Sinatra and they're like, well, we gotta take her down. And he's like, we know
Right.
how, and this, that, and the third.
Yeah.
So what do you think about what Xavier says when he's like, yo, my circle is you was sleeping with, Cal. So like my circle is still what it is. It basically excluding her.
I feel based off optics, I've seen you with Sinatra way too many times for me to trust you off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
The day before Billy died, or the night of Billy's death, you was in Sinatra's face with Billy. I don't trust you as far as I can throw you.
This is true.
When I was in the interrogation room, you tried to set me up like I was the one who did it.
Right. Yeah, that's true. So
You
I
know,
can't I can't
it's
trust
like
you as far as I
I
can
can't
throw you.
I can't let these things slide. I might forgive you, but I'm not gonna forget.
Yeah.
You know, so and Xavier, the way he is, once you on his "I don't trust you" list, you on there until he take you off. So
Yeah.
with
This is
Robinson,
true.
I feel like he needed her to really kind of prove herself in a sense. Like,
Yeah, show some loyalty basically.
yeah, like I need some type of credit on your part, like because right now you was public enemy number one, first
Yeah, this
suspect.
is
Like,
fact. No, this is
So
fact.
so now I think they had to get a little straightening. So hopefully we're gonna see.
Yeah. So basically, they're starting to put the plan in motion, right?
Right.
Um, and
What's up? Where the guns
I
at?
right. And like Robinson, they meet up at the bar, right? And they have their moment, and Xavier basically says like, Cal is dead, Billy is dead, something is up, we need to figure it out. And Robinson is like, hey, how do we do that? Robinson is like, how do we do that? Not Robinson. Cal is like, how do we do that without guns? And Robinson is like, oh, we got guns, and I know how to get them. You know,
Well, Xavier
and
said, "How we
so
gonna do it without guns?" Yeah, I get you.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so Robinson says, well, we got guns, and I know where to get them. And
Right.
so this is where obviously we don't see them talking about the plan, but the plan is in motion.
Hmm.
And I I really like that they are leads in this way, right? They're leading the scene, they're leading the charge. I think it's like just very, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it is very it I just loved the way that it came together essentially because as you said, like Robson has to prove herself to Xavier, and Xavier is really trying to keep the circle of trust small. So how do we think, like, knowing what we know right now, how do we think this is like playing out so far? Like, what do you see
I
happening, I guess?
see. I see either someone else is gonna die,
Mm-hmm.
because Sinatra's not gonna get touched yet. It's too early in the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Too much is going on, unless it's a bigger player than Sinatra. And as of right
Mm-hmm.
now, there is no bigger player than Sinatra. So
Right.
I feel either Sinatra's gonna double down on somebody else, or she's gonna activate another person to be
Another
a
sleeper
killer.
agent.
Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like I'm excited to see because I didn't expect Jane to be the sleeper, okay? So, and then
Listen,
with the way that this episode went as well, I'm like, you don't know who's involved, being that the grandfather now had parts in this in some to some capacity. Probably not in Kyle's death, but as
yeah.
far as getting the structure set up for Sinatra to even have this foundation or platform to do what she's doing, so it's really crazy. I would love to see what more the grandfather has to offer through his dementia talks.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's really what I'm looking forward to. Presley, why did she have the tablet? What was she looking for in the tablet? Who gave her the, well, like
Well, we realized that,
we
so
see.
that's how the
Yeah,
episode ends, right? So
right,
basically, Xavier goes home because now it's like shit is about to go down. Like it
right.
just got real, and he's telling Presley was about to tell him something, and I wonder what, I don't know what that is, but she tells him she tells Xavier tells Presley that Uncle Billy passed away. And
Right.
that's when things started to like really settle in. And he asked
Good.
her, like, hey, go pack up, go bag, get your brother.
I need
And
your
like,
help. Hmm.
right, I need your help. And so this is where we see that Presley has the iPad, and we're thinking, like, what the hell? Like, so this is why Grandpa was like, I've seen you before. Like, I've seen you here, because
Right.
obviously she had to be somewhere in the vicinity to obtain the iPad from Cal.
Or, but where would why wouldn't Grandpa say something if he's seen her? But then
It
again,
could it could have been he saw her beforehand, before she even had the iPad, because remember she was playing Wii with Uncle
video game.
Billy.
Yep,
So
that's a
it could
fact.
be that he just saw her that night, but she didn't have the iPad. And
Right.
so now that thing is starting to come together, but this adds a whole bunch of more questions, right? Like, why does she have the iPad? And then we see Xavier go over to Carl and say, hey, I need that favor. I need to call in. And it's a much bigger favor than, you know, quiche or what have you, or watching the kids or whatever it was that he said. And so we realize that Carl's a programmer. He slips in, he programs a message on the screen, or a whole he yeah, as we see, it's a message on the screen. And basically Xavier decides to stare into the lamppost, and then he says nothing, and then the sky goes red, and the message is that they're lying to you.
They're
And for
lying.
me, that's a badass way to, like, I'm
In the
mocking you.
episode,
Like, it's like the
yeah,
way that I'm onto you looks for this with Cal is crazy, because
I'm not gonna
yeah.
lie. The
Were
way
you
that
surprised at how that happened?
um no, only because everyone was hand selected to be there. Everyone has to have multifaceted skills. Everyone has to have something else to offer,
Mm-hmm.
especially now that Jane is this sleeper agent. I'm sorry. That right there makes me think everyone has a bigger agenda here
Mm-hmm.
because she was the least likely person for me
Yeah.
that had the biggest impact so far on the show as far as shaking things up.
Right.
So I'm really looking forward to see what more we have to offer. And are we going to get more Jane?
I could do without Jane. Somebody needs to kill Sinatra, and we'll see next episode. But y'all tell us how y'all feel with episode 5, and we will be here next week for episode 6. But you know how it
Yes, yes.
is. Comments, let us know. Like, what do you guys think? For real,
Yeah.
because Sinatra is a monster, and the game that she's playing is crazy. I will say shout outs to her. I forgot her name, but she's doing an amazing job as an actor. When you hate somebody because of the role they play, you
Role they're
know they're
playing.
doing a good job. So,
Right. Nah,
the
I'm not
whole
gonna lie.
cast is amazing, and the direction and how the show is going is really really good. So, let us know your thoughts, folks, and until next time, we will see you. Peace.
See.
Peace.